Dr. Chen, I'd like to welcome you to NJPSA and FEA, and I'm really happy that you joined us for our 30th anniversary celebration.
Oh, great to be here.
Thank you. You started off your presentation today by saying 2011 is a very exciting time for learning. And you also challenged us in New Jersey to make our state the next state of learning. So I'm just wondering, paraphrasing your last question that you posed to the audience, what's your definition of a great state vis-a-vis learning and the kinds of things you discussed today?
Well, that's a great question, and I pointed to Maine as having the first laptop program statewide starting in 2002. So the fact that it's 9 years later and we still do not have other states that have found a way, starting with the political will and courage to see that this is the way in which learning now needs to be organized for our students and our teachers, everyone with access to their own device, and you've got a great device here that many are using as the basis of one-to-one programs, especially for younger kids. But I do think the state of learning is a place where the state leadership really understands this and is willing to, as they did in Maine, put forth the political capital to make this happen. Change in education is difficult, and often, the public needs to be led by our leaders. Some people have said that countries like South Korea or Australia, you meet policymakers who are leading the public to understand this change. And that's what we don't quite have in this country. Governors, state legislators are saying this is what we need to do, and leading the public, educating the public to make this change. And Governor Angus King in Maine was a real leader in this regard, saw that this was important for the state of Maine to attract new industries, to say we have the best digital learning workforce in Maine, and that needed to start early. You cannot wait to college, you cannot wait till high school, it needs to start with the middle school. So I would say that the first thing that needs to happen for a state of learning is really the political will at the highest levels of the state to understand this and to be able to take the heat for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That's quite a challenge. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is you mentioned that innovation is the foundation of all we speak. We have in New Jersey a creativity initiative that it's fledgling. We're working with the Geraldine Dodge Foundation here in FEA to get it off the ground with a lot of other organizations. We call it Creative New Jersey. We had a convening here in June. We've had Ken Robinson here before, just to have a conversation with us. You mentioned him today. Mm-hmm. And several of us, a team, went to the World Creativity Forum in Oklahoma City last year.
I've heard of it, yes.
So all in all, there are many of us who support the idea of including more creativity and innovation and sustainability within the educational system. But I think about many of our school leaders who are burdened by the old NCLB requirements, meeting AYP, mm-hmm. and I'm just wondering if you have any guidance for us in helping bridge the gap for those school leaders, many of our school leaders, who are burdened by these requirements and the press associated with it, mm-hmm. and really can't trust bridging that gap to understanding that by including creativity and innovation within their work and their school's culture, mm-hmm. they may have even better outcomes than they have with the current operation.
Well, I think you rightly point to the culture clash between an assessment system that only uses tests as the main form of assessment. At the same time, you're trying to create a state of creativity, more of a creative curriculum. Those two things don't work, and when innovation meets with assessment wins, and that's what's been happening for the past 10 years. I think there's some good news on the horizon with these new assessment consortia, which we're trying to make sure that they involve more creative approaches to assessment. They are certainly working on performance-based assessment. So I think it's time to get ready for when these assessments are in place, 3-4 years from now, the curriculum will then follow. Until that time, most of the creativity that we see in the curriculum is happening outside of school, in the after-school places, whether it's after-school programs in the afternoon or more broadly summer programs I think summer learning is a real exciting time to get kids involved with creative activities, and those creative activities can be in the arts, but certainly in the sciences as well. They can be in any field. So I think it's important to take advantage of all the learning time the kids have. Competitions, robotics, arts competitions, all these things are where kids can really come alive and become creative. And that will carry over into their schoolwork as well. But to have teachers understand that there's a new form of assessment coming, to have waivers issued for school districts not to have to continually be testing. We've created under No Child Left Behind the most tested group of students, the most tested country in the world, and yet we haven't made much progress. So we're just in this transition time, but I think there's a better day ahead for both assessment and for creativity.
Well, let's hope.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned after school. As I mentioned to you, we have a 21st Century Community Learning Center grant here in FEA that we operate in the Jersey City 2 middle schools. And there we have a curriculum based upon project-based learning. We have social and emotional learning. We have high school students who graduated from program mentoring the middle school students. And these kids don't want to leave when you're talking about the students who they prefer to stay there through the evening. So what we're really hoping to do is try to better align the day with the after school, because we see the excitement that occurs in this kind of environment. And do you have any suggestions for our school leaders and how we can make the daytime as exciting as some after-school programs?
Yeah, I mean, you've put your finger on it. The best programs work when there is alignment between the school and the after-school program. For school leaders to understand that these are the same kids, it's just a different hour of the day. So we've produced a number of films at Edutopia where we show the after-school program directors working with the principals and the faculty so that they both know what's going on in both settings and can integrate and expand and leverage for greater effectiveness. For kids to be doing project-based learning, as you're suggesting, that extends both through the school day and into after school. The kids can be doing that work weekends as well. But that kind of integration of the school day and making it a learning day essentially, and breaking down the barriers between the after-school program and the school program, that's really when you can create a more seamless learning day for kids. And it is, as you're pointing out, it can be 7, 8, 9 hours long, and the kids never get tired. They want to stay and they want to continue to work on these projects.
And finally, since FEA does provide so much professional development to its members, we talked a little bit about the one-to-one program. What types of learning experiences should our school leaders be having in order to have the skills to create that environment where, if we do become a state of learning, learning will thrive within our buildings?
Well, you've got an example of that right here. A great new device that many schools and school leaders are using. I mentioned I was just at Hayward Unified School District in August, where they gave every administrator, every school leader, principal, district staff an iPad and said, get ready because next year we're going to start a digital learning curriculum and all students will have access to something like this. So making sure that school leaders are themselves empowered, that they have exposure to the latest devices, the training to go with it, to know how to use this, what are the best educational applications, the best apps for learning. I think is the most important thing, to start with administrators, principals, and then teachers before even giving it to students so they feel comfortable with it. I've seen a number of one-to-one programs go off the tracks when they've given the technology to students and the teachers didn't know what to expect. So it's very important to give teachers and principals time to learn with this. But you'll see that, as you're seeing here already, that they will find a whole different approach to this. They will see all sorts of ways, for instance, in which the subject matter comes alive. And one of my favorites is Theodore Gray's The Elements. When you see that,
my goodness, that's my favorite app.
One of mine too. And when you see that, it doesn't take you long, and you see this is a wholly different way of learning chemistry. This makes you want to learn chemistry. To know what titanium is. You hear titanium in different, it's used in airplanes, it's used in sporting equipment. What is it? Why is it so strong and so light? So it's a great way of compelling you to want to learn.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really glad you were with us today. It's been a delightful experience for me as well as all our members.
Thank you.
Thank you.